Well, hi there. So in this video, we're going to do some extra practice with perfect competition. So we'll start with those written problems and then do the multiple choice. Let's get started. Okay, so first thing to know is that this is a big problem, right? This is one big problem. It's from an AP exam from a few years ago. And so we're going to actually do most of the problem down here in the blank area, but we want to kind of have the problem in front of us. So if you have the paper with you, that's great. Otherwise, you're going to have to kind of follow along a little bit as we do both. So it says Heirloom Gardens, profit maximizing firm, typical, constant cost, perfectly competitive market, long run equilibrium. So the fact that they're in long run equilibrium is important here. That's going to tell us that the price is equal to the ATC for this firm. And perfect competition is the type of market that we've been dealing with since we started. We know that the MR equals MC is going to be true for this firm because they're profit maximizing. And I'm going to ignore this constant cost phrase. Nearly all of the problems that you're going to get from AP will say that. And quite frankly, I don't think it's really valuable for us in an introductory economic class to kind of go too much farther with talking about what that means. So draw correctly labeled graphs for the tomato market and the firm and show each of the following. So I'm going to draw these two graphs down here. And they do need to be side by side for me to earn credit here. And that's because the price axis that I'm drawing right now is actually the same axis. So they line up. And that is kind of an important detail that we want to make sure we get in here. And so the first part, we just have supply and demand here. And it's going to go all the way over to the firm because remember, this firm is a price taker. Now, it does give us some labels, PM, QM for the market, QF, PF for the firm. So we're going to need to use those, PM for the market, QM for the market, PF, here's the firm's charging, and we're going to draw a horizontal line and say that's equal to Mr. D, right? Some of you might be in the habit of Mr. DARP. If you are, just make sure you put some equal signs in between the relevant parts of what that is. But for our purposes, this should take care of most of what we need here. The only thing that we are just missing now is an ATC and an MC because we need to figure out the quantity that this firm is producing. So the MC curve here, that tells us this is how much this firm produces, Q sub F. That's the firm's quantity when they profit maximize. And we do know they're breaking even. They're earning zero economic profit because they're in the long run. So I'm going to put my ATC right there through the middle. Now, double check here, PM done, QM done, QF done, PF done, ATC done, and I've got my MC in order to actually show their production. Suppose the government imposes a binding price floor in the market for tomatoes. Will this benefit all farmers? Explain. Will surplus, increase, decrease, stay the same? Explain. Part B is not on the graph. Very important, right? Note that part B does not say anything about the graph. It's literally just asking you a series of questions. So we're going to put B and then sub 1 down here. And the question was that there's a binding price floor in the market for tomatoes. Will it benefit all the farmers? Well, we know that if there's a price floor, it's going to go straight across here. It's going to cause there to be a greater quantity supplied and a lower quantity demanded. And that's actually going to reduce the number of transactions. So we're going to say no, because some farmers no longer sell at QM. We're going to say now there's less QD. And that's kind of what I'm saying here to say that if I put a horizontal price floor here, it's going to cause there to be less QD than there used to be at QM. And so some farmers are not going to be able to sell that quantity that they used to be able to. So it won't benefit them. Part 2 says, will the consumer surplus increase, decrease, stay the same? Explain. Now this one, I can clearly say it's going to decrease, make sure my arrow is big, decrease because price increased with PF versus PM. And this is really just enough to say like the price is higher and that's going to cause there to be less consumer surplus. Part C says now suppose the government does not impose the price floor and that there is now an increase in consumers' incomes, tomatoes are normal. So if there's a change in income and these are normal, we know that's going to increase the demand for the product. So on our graphs in part A, show the short run effect of the increase in incomes on the market equilibrium price and quantity, label it P2, Q2. So in this market, I'm just going to shift this to be D sub 1. And I have Q2. I'm going to put a directional arrow here because it is telling me that I need to show the effect on their quantity. And then I'm also going to label here, put a bigger dot just so that it's nice and clear, big dot, P2. I'm going to label a higher price. Now, I'm also going to bring that over, that new higher price, I'm going to bring that over into the firm graph. And so we have a Mr., new Mr., and a new demand curve, and it's shifting it up here. So we do need to shift the demand curve for the firm in addition to the market, because otherwise we're not showing fully what's going on for Heirloom Gardens. And it says for this next part, we've done the market P2 Q2, short run profit maximizing quantity for Heirloom Gardens labeled Q star. So the new quantity that they produce at will be at MR equals MC. We're going to come down Q star, and that is a larger value. And then it says, last but not least, short the area representing Heirloom Gardens economic profit shaded completely. So this, we're just going to go down to that ATC, right? So from the point we were just at, down to the ATC, and then over. And remember, we've got to be very, very careful that we are ignoring this old Mr. D. He is dead to us now, and I am shading completely here, or at least I'm trying to with my ink pen shade here. I do not want to go down to that old Mr. D because he doesn't exist. He's dead to us, right? So shaded completely done. Given the increase in consumers' incomes in Part C, what will happen to the market equilibrium price and quantity of tomatoes in the long run? Explain. Now, think about this from the long run perspective. If we were having firms earning profit, what's going to happen? Well, new firms will enter. And as those new firms enter, the supply curve will shift to the right, and that will lower Mr. DARP back down again, right? So you're kind of coming over to here is actually where we're going to end up. And so that supply curve will shift to the right until we get back to P sub M. And so our answer here is going to be, what's going to happen to the equilibrium price? Price will go back to P sub M because new firms enter due to profit. Make sure, oops, sorry, you can't read what I'm writing. Price will go back to PM because new firms enter due to profit. So supply increases. Quantity, right? Think about what would happen to quantity if the supply curve shifts to the right over to here. You're going to have an even bigger quantity, right? So what will happen to the quantity in the long run? It will go up even more, will increase more as supply increases. And so we can say, why don't we just say, and quantity will increase more as supply increases. So really this is just saying like what will happen to the price, what will happen to the quantity. There would be a larger quantity, but it will return back. It'll go like whoop right back to where we started again with P sub M. And for what it's worth, part D, this price change that we were referring to here is actually dependent on it being constant cost. If it wasn't a constant cost industry, it would look a little bit different, but hopefully that helped us with the practice problem. Let's take a look at the multiple choice. Number one, a profit maximizing perfectly competitive firm is currently in long run equilibrium, earning 15,000 total revenue from a sale of 1,000 units. Total fixed cost of production is 2,500. What can be correctly inferred? So this is a relationships question. First, I can know that if we're in long run equilibrium, then I know that price equals marginal revenue and that equals marginal cost. Oops, sorry for bumping this thing. Because perfect competition would mean price equals marginal revenue, and profit maximizing means MR equals MC. And I also know that we're in long run equilibrium, so that is also equal to ATC. So there's a few things here that I'm going to be able to do with this. The total fixed cost of production is 2,500. I know that we have 15,000 in revenue, which means I have 15,000 in costs. So that means I have 12,500 in variable cost. So I'm going to put that off to the side, 12,500 variable cost. And if I'm doing 1,000 units, then that makes each one of these 12.5 for variable cost. So I'm looking here, that's a true statement. This is not, A is not, because average total cost wouldn't be 1250, it would be 15. But this one is, marginal cost 15, average total cost is 1250, so I'm gonna rule that one out. Average variable is 1250, that's true. Average fixed cost is 1250, that's not true either because the fixed cost is 2,500. And so that makes our average fixed cost 2.5. So I've already ruled out 3 just by kind of assessing what about my averages. Now the marginal cost, I know that marginal cost is equal to marginal revenue, is equal to the price, and that my price is 15 because it's $15,000 of revenue and 1,000 units. So $15 is my marginal cost. That leaves me with option D. Question 2, which of the following are characteristics of perfect competition? New firms can enter easily. That's true. No product differentiation. That's true. Industry demand curve is perfectly elastic. That's not true. It's the firm's demand curve. And then last, the supply curve of an individual firm is perfectly elastic. That's not true. It's the demand curve. So 1 and 2, only A. 3, if there are many firms in an industry, each firm's product is indistinguishable. That means you can't tell from the products of all the others. The individual firm's demand curve will be elastic. It'll be perfectly elastic. It'll be a price taker. So we want horizontal and identical for each firm. I'm just kind of reading through these other ones. Yep, horizontal and identical. Because it's identical products, right? Which of the following is characteristic of firms in perfectly competitive industry? They don't do collusive behavior. They don't collude. They can't. They don't have barriers to entry. I'm going to rule some of these out here. Setting the market price. They can't do that. They take the market price. They produce identical products. D. 5, if a perfectly competitive firm is producing where MC is rising and greater than marginal revenue, to maximize profits, it should do what? So in other words, we've got marginal revenue right here. We got marginal cost right here. And it's saying marginal cost is rising and greater than MR. So that would be like right here. So we are at Q star. What should we do if we want to get the most profit? Well, we want to back off of that and get to this quantity. So decrease the level of production, B. Number 6, at the current level of production of X, price is greater than marginal cost. And so once again, we've got here the price, right? Marginal revenue is the price for this firm, is greater than marginal cost. What would lead to greater efficiency, right? Well, producing more units, increasing the production of good X. Right? That's because we know that we're not producing at where that marginal cost and marginal revenue equal each other. Number 7, a farmer produces peppers in a perfectly competitive market. If the price falls, in the short run, the farmer should do what? Well, if the price falls, then we know that they're going to decrease production because they're going to cut back, right? So it's kind of like saying, what if Mr. Darp would have moved down? Well, your new point would just be to the left of where it was. So looking for increased production? No. Increased production? No. Discontinue production if the new price is less than marginal revenue? That can't be true because MR equals P. That's why that one can't be true. Continue to produce only if the new price covers average fixed cost. That's not true. Continue to produce only if the new price covers average variable cost. That's true. Price must exceed AVC or else we shut down rule, right? So E. So this is really testing the shutdown rule, actually. 8, in the short run, the firm will realize an economic loss, but will continue to produce if, and this is saying if the price is in between, or sorry, I should do it this way. If the price is in between the AVC and the ATC. And so that's kind of saying we should operate if that's the case. So shut if the price is less than the AVC. So where am I learning a loss? Below P3. And I'm going to shut down if the price gets below P2. So between P3 and P2. And that's our answer here, D. Number 9, the short run supply curve for a firm in a perfectly competitive industry is equal to, it's not the whole marginal cost, it's the above the AVC. So it's this range, right? This range is the supply curve. Because we know the firm's going to shut down below the AVC. So its marginal cost curve above the minimum point of its average total cost? No. Its marginal cost curve above the minimum point of its average variable cost curve. E. And number 10, a firm will definitely shut down if, let's see here, produce market to maximize, earn zero profit, cover all of its fixed cost. Well, this is not true. This is not true. This is not true. Lower than its competitors. This is not true. A, shut down if its total revenue is less than its total variable cost. So this is kind of another way of saying like why, if this is less than the average variable, if the total revenue is less than that variable cost, then there's no reason for them to operate. So hopefully this helped you with a little bit more practice with perfect competition. I would encourage you to take that Kia practice quiz as well. I'll see you next time.